Good afternoon. This is V and G with Keeping It Real with V and G. And we welcome you back to a beautiful, beautiful Sunday, which is not too cold today. We have two wonderful people who are our guests today. They are our regulars. They come on every last Sunday in the month, and they really keep us on our toes. Our first guest today will be Alicia Richardson, and she is our resident therapist. So she's going to talk with us about mental health and mental health needs. Miss Alicia Richardson.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to this Mental Health Matters section. My name, like Ms. V said, is Alicia Richardson. I'm a licensed professional counselor and I am the owner of Heart of the Matter Counseling. And I want to thank Keeping It Real with V&G for inviting me on the show today. My intention is to share some information regarding mental health. Mental health has been stigmatized, and people often associate the word mental health as negative. So I wanted to set the record straight. I want to talk about mental health, what mental health is, talk a little bit about mental illness, talk about what we do when one of our loved ones or we ourselves may find ourselves in a mental health crisis. Mental health is a state of well being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities and they can cope with the normal stresses of life and can work productively and is able to make a contribution to the community. Mental illness is defined as collectively all diagnosable mental disorders or health conditions that are characterized by alterations in thinking, mood, or behavior. And so, what is mental health? It's our emotional, psychological, and social well being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, how we relate to others, and how we make choices. And over the course of our life, we have to look at if we're experiencing mental health problems, is it affecting our thinking, our mood, our behavior? And here are some early warning signs, of a mental health problem. If someone is dealing with mental health, are they eating or sleeping too much or too little? Are they pulling away from people in their usual activities? Do they have low energy or no energy? And so, also you want to connect with your primary care physician to ensure that there are no physical health problems taking place. Are you feeling numb or like nothing matters, or feeling hopeless, or smoking, drinking, or using drugs more than usual? Feeling usually confused, forgetful, angry, upset. With when we talk about mental health, we correlate it with wellness. Positive mental health allows people to realize their full potential, to cope again with stressors of life. And there are ways that you can maintain your positive mental health by connecting with others, by staying positive, by being physically active, by getting enough sleep, by developing coping skills. And I know, since we've been in COVID-19, the conversation of mental health has come to the forefront. As we have been in quarantine and as we have just disconnected from people, it has really caused us to really take a good look at our mental health. Mental health it plays an important role in your overall well-being, and an estimated 19.6% of Americans age 18 and older will experience a mental health problem this year. Over the course of our life, over the course of this pandemic, we have experienced things that I don't think anyone has would have ever foresaw or experienced before. So, taking care of our mental health is just as important as taking care of our physical health. Our overall health includes a well balanced, nutritious diet, regular exercise, and importantly, stress management, early and ongoing mental health services when needed, and taking time to relax and enjoy family and friends. And one of the things that I challenged people to think about during pandemic is this idea of social distancing. I'd like to, present that maybe we are physically distancing ourselves, but staying socially connected. And there are so many avenues that we have, used, like the Zoom platforms, all of these different social media platforms that help us stay socially connected to others, which I think wording is very important and it makes a difference. If I say, I'm staying away from others, then you're isolating yourself, which I think at that point can create some concerns for your mental health. Let's talk a little bit about the myths of mental health. There is a myth that mental health problems don't affect me, but the fact is mental health problems are very common. 1 in 5 American adults experience a mental health issue, and 1 in 10 young people experience a period of major depression. 1 in 25 Americans live with a mental illness, a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depression. And I think it's so important that we have these conversations out loud with each other because, like I mentioned earlier, there has been a stigma associated with mental illness. And mental illness is real. It's not going anywhere. And people who have been diagnosed with mental illness can live normal, healthy lives, just like someone who has not been diagnosed with a mental illness. Part of I think what's important is the support that we show to our loved ones, for ourselves, anyone that has been diagnosed with a mental illness. We all need support. Another big myth is children don't experience mental health problems. And the fact is, even very young children may show early warning signs of mental health concerns. And these mental health problems are often clinically diagnosable and can be a product of the interaction of the biological, the psychological, and social factors. So, half of all mental disorders show first signs before a person turns 14 years of age, and 3/4 of the mental health disorders begin before age 24. Another myth is, and this is a big one, people with mental health problems are violent and unpredictable. The fact is, the vast majority of people with mental health problems are no more likely to be violent than anyone else. So I want to say that again because the myth is that people with mental health problems are violent and unpredictable. Most people with mental illness are not violent, and only 3 to 5% of violent acts can be contributed to individuals living with a serious mental illness. In fact, people with severe mental illnesses are over 10 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than the general population. Another myth is personality weakness or character flaws cause mental health problems. People with mental health problems can snap out if they try hard enough. Now, the fact is that mental health problems have nothing to do with being lazy or weak, and many people need help to get better. There are many factors that contribute to mental health problems, such as the biological factors, the genes, physical illness, injury, brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma or a history of abuse, family history of mental illness. So you see, there are many myths that we need to dispel, because a person who has been diagnosed with mental illness is just like a person who has been diagnosed with any other type of illness. And oftentimes, with a serious mental illness, there may be a need for medication, there may be a need for therapy and support, but there is always a need for support from our family, friends, and our community. And so, mental illness is a medical condition that disrupts a person's thinking, feeling, mood, their daily functioning, and ability to relate to others. And so, if you remember me saying what mental health was, now we're talking about what mental illness looks like. There may be thought disturbances, changes in behavior. And so, what we need to learn how to do as a community of people is talk about mental health in a way that is healthy. We want to ask someone who may be struggling with their mental health or have a conversation about how they're feeling. Talk to them about your concern for their safety. We often encounter, or maybe not often, but we have been known to encounter individuals who are in mental health crisis. It's a situation in which someone is at risk of hurting themselves or others. And so I wanted to share with you, what is it that you can do? Learning that someone you love has a mental health condition can be frightening. People experiencing episodes of mental illness and the people who care for them need information. And sometimes that information is not readily available. And the search for answers may require more energy and persistence than what they have available for at that time of crisis. So when a mental health condition is present, the potential for a crisis is never far from mind. A mental breakdown is different for everyone, and symptoms can vary depending on the mental illness the person is diagnosed with. And so, some of the most common diagnoses are schizophrenia, depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, anxiety. Some of the symptoms may include withdrawing from friends, lack of hygiene, drug, alcohol abuse, quick weight loss or gain. And so I want to encourage you, if you know someone who is struggling with their mental health, or if you know someone who has a mental illness, refer them to their local community mental health center or a mental health provider, a therapist. If you know someone who is, and this is a conversation we don't like to talk about, but it's real. People often consider suicide. And so we run away from that conversation. But if we know someone that has mentioned or has discussed suicide, we want to take that very seriously. I want to give you a number that you can call. You can call the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800 273 8255. You can call if you have your mental health provider or professional. And in a situation of crisis, I definitely encourage you to call 911. If you think you or a loved one might be at risk for support, call 911. You can request the police send a crisis intervention training person out. They're trained to respond to mental health crisis. Now, people often don't know what to expect once they've made that call, what's going to happen next. And there are several types of treatment that are often depending on the condition and also the payer. Doctors may choose to keep you or that individual overnight for an evaluation. They may recommend inpatient treatment, which just means a person is admitted to a treatment facility for those who are considered a danger to self or to others. They also could recommend outpatient treatment, which is provided while you or a loved one lives at home. So, treatment could be a combination of inpatient and outpatient. Another resource is NAMI, National Association Alliance on Mental Health. Um, and so, again, a mental health crisis is any situation in which a person's behavior puts them at risk for hurting themselves or others and or prevents them from being able to care for themselves or function effectively in the community. So, we want to be mindful of those stressors at home or the environment, those stressors at school or at work, paying attention to a change in the person's behavior, or if they have experienced loss of any kind, or if they have experienced or been exposed to trauma. We want to be mindful and pay attention to our friends, loved one, and even recognize in ourselves when there have been challenges. Now, people, again, I want to go back really quickly to talk about what do you do if you suspect that someone is thinking about suicide. That's a conversation that we don't want to have, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. And you can open the conversation by sharing what you've noticed about the person. I've noticed that you not been sleeping. I've noticed that you haven't been eating. Are you okay? And if they say that, well, I'm not okay, then let's talk about who can we talk to? Who do you need to talk to help you through this time right now? I think it's really important. We're seeing way too many people lose life, and go through with suicide. And so we want to just, talk about it, um, and just be a support. Lastly, I want to give you some strategies, some coping strategies, especially now that we are in a time of uncertainty with crisis, with COVID, and with new variants coming about. And it can be very uncomfortable for me, for you, for many of us, as we try to cope with the COVID-19, and the stress that it can cause. So I want to tell you, sometimes you have to disconnect from social media and news outlets so that you can reduce your stress and anxiety. You need to pause, take a break, meditate, focus on things that are within your control in the present moment. Get some rest, practice healthy sleeping habits. This is a time where we can learn healthier eating habits. Of course, wash your hands. That's what we've heard over the last 2 years. I know that's something I've heard over a lifetime, but wash your hands, wash your hands, and wash your hands. And if you have a skill that you've always wanted to learn, sign up for a new class or a training online. Identify activities that you will enjoy, and engage in them. And for adults, I laugh because with adults, when we get grown, we stop doing those things that we used to do when we enjoyed doing them as children, such as coloring, putting together puzzles, just things that can help reduce your stress, but at the same time, help you through this really interesting time. And maintain your social connections. Find a new way to connect with your family and friends. Host a virtual hangout. I know, or an online movie, or a movie night, or a watch party. I know, I had spoken to, a friend last year during the holiday. And, what we have to recognize is everybody doesn't find the holidays to be happy. And so this friend was concerned that they would be alone, and it's like, well, you know what, call your family up in the various, different time frames, and schedule a time where you all can sit down together virtually and have a meal together and have a conversation. So it's just about tapping into your creativity and identifying a new way of doing life. And also having some relaxation strategies under your belt. Um, your spirituality, pray, meditate, sing uplifting songs, read devotionals, exercise, nutrition, and also there are a couple of apps like Calm and Headspace, um, that are used to provide additional mental health support, coping skills, and resources. So, I just wanted to come and have a conversation with you today about mental health matters, what mental health look like, what mental illness look like, and how we handle crises. So I hope this was beneficial to you today, and take care and be well.
We want to thank you, Miss Richardson, and we did have some questions for you, but I kind of think you touched on most of them. Would you take a look at that list and see if it's anything that you just may have left out?
Yes, ma'am. Well, one of the questions was watching out for the symptoms, with working with young children and teenagers. And I think, it's so important that we just pay attention to each other. COVID, no COVID. We just need to pay attention to each other. And when we notice things look different, having a conversation. I worked with teenagers, and I do work with teenagers now, but I remember a conversation that I had with a coworker years ago. And one of the things that she said with our teenagers, especially, is the number one concern that she heard was nobody is listening. And so I think I always tell parents to chew gum. And I know that may sound really silly, but here's the thing. When your young person comes to you with a situation and the first thing you want to do is solve it and fix it, they are going to shut down. And
Yes.
so it's almost as if you've lost them before you found them.
Yes.
It is a privilege when teenagers come to adults to have any type of conversation, because they think they know everything anyhow.
Mhm.
And so if this is my chew gum approach. When they come to you with things that you just really are struggling with, chew your gum, be silent, and listen. Because if you intervene too soon, you will lose them. But if you listen to what they're trying to share with you, walk away, think about it, and go back to them and say, I've given it some thought. I heard what you said, and rehearse back to them what you heard. One, they feel like you have listened to them. And two, they are now open for the feedback that you have. If you try to intervene too soon, they've shut that deaf ear. They've given you a deaf ear. They're not hearing you. And so anything you say is not going to help. The other question, there are two more that I'd like to address.
Okay.
There are places in the Mobile area that individuals can go to get help, to get counseling. So I would just tell you to tap into your resources, contact 211 if you don't have insurance, and see what resources they can link you to. And another question was, how will the rise in inflation affect the mental health of individuals? And I want to say that the economic crisis that we experience, they do impact mental health. And so it's really important that we think about mental health problems are related to deprivation, poverty, inequality, and other social and economic determinants of health. And so, because we are aware that these issues are present, and that's the importance of us having these conversations today, we can now be more in tune to individuals and recognize when it appears that there may be a crisis, and we can have that conversation with the individual. So hopefully that has answered some of the questions. Another question that I had was with related to, let me get that specifically. Let's see. It was related to when someone is grieving the loss of a loved one, at what point should they seek counseling? And what we have to realize is losing a loved one is one of the most distressing,
Yes.
but and unfortunately common experiences that people face. And most people experiencing normal grief and bereavement have a period of time of sorrow, numbness, guilt, anger. And gradually these feelings will ease because it becomes possible to accept the loss of the loved one. For some people, feelings of loss are debilitating and they don't improve even after time. So that's known as complicated grief. And what we want to know is that it's normal to grieve. If after a year we are still grieving heavily, I say, let's talk to someone to help you identify some ways that you can cope in your day to day. So there are differences between normal grief. Some signs of complicated grief is intense sorrow and pain and rumination over the loss of the loved one, feeling that life holds no meaning or purpose, bitterness about the loss, intense and persistent longing or pining for the person that we've lost. So, just again, paying attention to each other, recognizing that there is normal grief. We are going to grieve when we've lost someone we've loved. But after a period of time, if we are not and I don't want to say moving forward because I just don't like that term. But if we do not see that we're able to cope with day-to-day life, it may be time to seek the support of someone, a medical therapist or a medical professional.
Okay. We really do thank you for the time and the effort that you put in your presentations every month for us. And please, folks, remember that Miss Alicia Richardson is in private practice. And we have been running the banner across the bottom of the screen of how you can contact her if you see fit. If you feel that you need this assistance or you feel that there's someone out there that you know or in your family that may need this help, then please reach out to her. And if she's at a position where she cannot help you, I'm certain that she can easily refer you to other resources. We want to thank you again, Ms. Richardson, and of course, we welcome you back again next month.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to turn to our health update. Every month, at the end of the month, and last Sunday in the month, we devote to mental health and physical health. So we have our resident nurse who will come on now and she will give us our health update, Miss Yolanda Long.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And that was a wonderful presentation by Miss Alicia Richardson, being that mental health is one of my many specialties in nursing, felt it was very well put together, and I agree 100%. Moving on to my focus today, and that's COVID-19. I try to come every month and give you all an update and let you know where the meter is on this COVID epidemic. Currently, we have had 374 million cases of COVID worldwide. And of those 374 million cases, there has been 5.6 million deaths. And I would just like to take a moment of silence just to take that in and pray for families that are affected and our individual mindset when it comes to dealing with COVID-19. In the United States alone, we've had 74.2 million cases with 883,000 deaths. We are continuing to see individuals being hospitalized and individuals losing their lives secondary to as a result of COVID. In the state of Alabama, we have had 1.2 million cases with 17,086 deaths. And in Mobile County, 106,000 cases with 1,459 deaths. In the United States, we have 211.7 million people that have been fully vaccinated. That's 63.8% of the population. And we have 87.8 million that have received the booster. That's 41.5% of the population that is able to receive the vaccination at this time. In Alabama, people 5 years of age or older that have received at least one vaccination, that's going to be 2,998,600 people, 65.1% of our population. People 5 years of age or older that are fully vaccinated, 2,423,831. That's 52.6% of the population. People 50 years of age or older that have received the booster, 604,230. That's 45% of the population. In Mobile County, 198,792 people are fully vaccinated, and that's 47% of the population. That's not including those that have received their boosters. Now, we have a long way to go on this COVID. It doesn't look like COVID is going anywhere. So here are some things to protect yourselves and to protect others. First of all, social distancing is not social isolation. And like Ms. Richardson said, you're still able to engage with others. Social media, phone calls, texts, emails. You can even be around people, but just not in close quarters. And another thing, not only being around people in close quarters, you don't know who's been vaccinated and who has not. So just be careful. Continue to wear your mask. Continue to social distance, hand washing, respiratory hygiene. That means when you cough or sneeze, cough into your or sneeze into your elbow. Make sure you avoid poorly ventilated spaces and crowds. Get tested. And like I said before, clean and disinfect regularly. Monitor your health daily. If you know you have a fever, if you know you're not feeling well, please stay at home. That job, that school, it's not worth passing it on to someone else and infecting others. Please be mindful of your neighbors, of your surroundings. You want to always follow recommendations for isolation. And I know a lot of people have began traveling again. Keep in mind to take precautions when you're traveling. That's by air, by bus, trains. We have to remember those are not well ventilated. They're in close contact with other people. So just take that into consideration. Remember to become fully vaccinated and boosted. Now we're going to turn to the free COVID-19 tests that are being administered by the Biden administration. And I just want you all to know that you can go to COVID test with a S on the end of test, COVIDtests.gov. COVIDtests.gov. And that's where you can order 4 COVID-19 tests per household. If you have not done so, test with the S on the end of tests, Miss Johnson. I'm sorry. So, another thing I want you all to know is Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart will be a part of the distribution centers for getting out the N95, the masks that are recommended to help prevent COVID, the spread of COVID-19. These, among other pharmacies, but these are just a few. I'm not endorsing anybody, but these are the ones that show up the most when I'm looking for where we can get these N95 masks next week. They should be start to distribute those to the general population. Like I said earlier, there are new variants and new mutations. We have a new mutation that has come out, and the latest COVID variant, Omicron subvariant known as BA.2, is 1.5 times more transmissible than the original Omicron strain, and it is in nearly half the US states. And if we thought Delta was spreading wild during late summer, early fall, I think this is something that we're going to have to contend with for quite a while. And until we become serious about COVID and begin to take the necessary precautions, this variant is going to be here. And not only this variant, this infection, this pandemic. So we have to become serious. I know we've all become very lax. And to be honest, I'm tired of wearing my mask, but I put it on each and every day, working 12, sometimes 13, 14 hours in it. Yes, I put it on. Why? Because I want to protect me. I want to protect you. I want to protect those I work with, those around me, my loved ones, your loved ones. So we each have a responsibility. If we do this, if everybody becomes serious about it, we can eradicate this. We can get rid of this pandemic and move on. That's all I have to say about COVID for this week. But as usual, I have your monthly health awareness. So for the month of February, that's American Heart Month awareness. And just keep in mind diet, exercise, smoking cessation, lifestyle modifications are just a few things that can lower your cardiovascular risk. So keep that in mind. Just take simple steps during the month of February. If you would just cook a healthy meal once a day, be it breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You just start incorporating some of those healthy habits into your life. It's also low vision month. So we want to make sure that we're going to the ophthalmologist, optometrist, going to take care of our visual health. And as we get older, we notice elderly people falling a lot. That's because they have low vision or they simply have gone blind. And we want to make sure we keep them safe. But we also have to remember our little ones, school age children. That's usually when we find out that they have some type of vision loss, is when they get into kindergarten and first grade. So keep that in mind. They need to go and see the eye doctor as well. We want to remember those with eating disorders, and that's usually going to be our teenage girls. So make sure we're watching these teenage girls that are trying to be magazine perfect, and those who have problems with body image. Then it's also the month for teen dating violence. That's that domestic violence related to dating. And it can be both male and female perpetrators of teen domestic violence. National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Um, when I was growing up, we didn't participate in sports a lot, but now we see women getting out there and doing more. But we want them to be safe in these sports. It's also National Children's Dental Health Month. Make sure we are taking these children to see a dentist at least once a year. And children should start going to the dentist when their baby teeth start to erupt. That should be the first time that you take your little one to see the dentist. National Self Check Month. That means that you're going to check on yourself head to toe. That means physically, emotionally, socially, psychosocially, spiritually. So you want to do like an inventory. Um, do your schedule your appointments to talk with your healthcare providers. Talk with a counselor such as Miss Richardson. Um, Go and talk to your spiritual advisor. This would be a great time to make those appointments. It's also National Caregivers Day during the month of February. People don't realize the amount of strain that caregivers incur when taking care of other people. They often forget about themselves. And it's usually the caregiver is the one that passes away before the person that is sick, because it's so much strain and it's been such a burden on them. They're trying to do everything for everybody. So we want to remember them this month. And it's also World Day of Social Justice is celebrated during the month of February. And as we all know, Black History Month, and we're excited for Black History Month and these programs that will be going on. Even if you decide not to attend a Black History program, there may be some that may be online if you're still afraid to go out because of the COVID pandemic. So look into different venues or different presentations that may be going on in different ways that you can view them. And stay safe. And I want you all to remember February is the month of love. That doesn't mean you have to have a significant other, but spread love. Just be kind, be gentle, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And that's basically all I have for this month. Thank you all for tuning in, and I appreciate you.
But we're going to wait a moment until V comes back. But thank you, Yolanda, for that thorough report on COVID-19 and the Omicron variant. I see the V's back, so take it, V.
Uh, Thank you, Yolanda. I'm sorry I had muted myself because of my dog. But we do want to thank you. But I did have one question, a couple of questions about the mask. Could you give us the locations, those stores that will be giving them out, and will there be a fee?
They're going to be free.
Oh,
And I don't know exactly how they're going to monitor who has gotten theirs or who has not. I
uh-huh.
don't know what the process is, but I'm keeping an eye on it.
Okay,
So far in our area, it's Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart.
okay,
But I'm very anxious to see how this is going to play out. I
uh-huh.
think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Um, but I just want to see how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for that helpful information and thank you for your presentation today. You always bring us up to date with what's going on in the health field, as well as remind us of what specific days or months that this happened to be. We've got quite a few things on our list here that we can address in our show during the rest of this month. We want to thank both of our guests for participating with us today. And of course, we invite both of them back again next month. And we want to thank you, our audience, for being with us. We try our best to bring to you the information that our communities need to hear. So, once again, thank you. And please join us again next Sunday, Keeping It Real with V and G. We will be right here, same place, same station, same time. Good evening.